We're back again. So are you. Thank you.
Thank you. Another episode from Studio G.
I got an idea, and I will admit it is a ripoff. And I want to credit Freddie Coleman, who does a talk show on ESPN in the midday. I had him turned on the other day on the radio. They were talking about what are the greatest sounds of sports. Give it some thought.
Okay.
Or maybe you have already.
I think things will come to mind because you're springing it on me here, but that's okay.
What is the greatest sound of sports? Or the best? We can list
Well,
them.
I think the most obvious one, and it comes to mind always, is the crack of the bat, right, with baseball.
Yes!
Pretty hard to argue with that one.
A majority wins.
I mean, who can forget Ken Griffey with that magic swing he had and just hearing the ball come off it right off the bat?
In Minneapolis, was covering the story when Calvin Griffith was ready to sell the Twins.
Okay.
And so I was there early and actually got a field pass and walked down to the batting cage, and the White Sox were taking batting practice.
Right.
You remember Greg Luzinski?
Oh, sure.
Big guy. Could hit the ball a ton.
Right.
Watched him hit batting practice. The crack of the bat. Every time. And it's so very, very distinctive. Keep score, and you figure out what your favorite sports sounds are, too.
Right.
So crack of the bat is number one.
That might put ideas in your head.
How about pregame hockey practice?
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
When they just throw a couple dozen pucks out on the
That's a
ice,
great
and
one,
all you hear are the slap shots and the puck not going in the net, but going wide of the net, hitting the boards of the glass.
Right.
Those.
I agree with that. In fact, when we're at the games, and which we've seen so many hockey games over the years, you're totally right about that. There's something about them just coming out, and all those pucks are being shot one after the other. What I like about that scene the best is at some point the goalie's just had enough. And I just think it's great how they're all shooting pucks on net, and then all of a sudden the goalie just sort of skates away. He's all right, fellas, you shoot on an empty net for a minute. I'm going to have a breather. So I think that's kind of funny, yeah.
It's not a big sport. I'm going to go back to bowling, but when a bowling ball hits the pocket perfectly, and it just annihilates all 10 pins.
Yeah,
that's a very distinctive sound.
Right. You know, another one that comes to mind to me, and I was privileged to actually walk NFL sidelines at times when I was a sports producer and reporter way back in the day. And so most people may not get to hear the type of thing I'm about to talk about, but when you're on the sideline and you hear those guys hit, it's unbelievable. You've been on a sideline. It's incredible, isn't it? So just the sounds of the pads. And
I was on the sidelines. I believe the Patriots were playing the Seahawks, and I believe Cowboys. Drew Bledsoe was quarterbacking at the time.
Okay.
And he was running to the sidelines, and before he got to the sideline, he got popped. He's just flying out of bounds.
Right.
And, it's pretty...
It's incredible,
It's a scary sound.
In fact, one more anecdote for me, since you brought up a singular play. For me, I was really lucky and got to cover a Seahawks playoff game down in Miami way back in the early 80s. But what I'll never ever forget was Kenny Easley, the great defensive player for the Hawks. I was on the sideline, and Kenny just drove a guy out of bounds, and it happened right by me. It was one of those moments where you'll see, media members jumping out of the way so they don't get smacked. And for one play, that was me. But just the intensity in Kenny Easley's eyes, I just will never forget that. It was incredible.
I only have one more sound that I can think of that really is just unique to sports. And it could apply to a home run. It could apply to a winning goal. It could apply to a winning touchdown. The moment that something spectacular happens in an instant, and the crowd just goes nuts.
I agree.
Just goes nuts. And the one that comes to mind is there was a Cal Raleigh home run a couple of years ago.
Right, for the Mariners.
The Mariners.
Yeah. One that comes to mind for Seattle sports fans, it's quite a while ago now, but it was during the Pete Carroll era, and it's that time the Seahawks got to go to the Super Bowl, the one they won with Pete. But we all remember that game against San Francisco in the NFC title game. And I think for me, that moment when Richard Sherman deflected the ball, I think for me that was one of those moments, just seeing the total elation when he did that.
Those are the best sounds of sports. The best sounds of sports.
Great topic, Dennis. We kind of just ad-libbed that one, but I like it. That's good.
Are we at the end? Did we hit it out of the ballpark?
I hope so. A grand slam.